Today I want to talk about reality of equal and obligation. And there's a parable in Matthew chapter 18 that's pretty telling. And it's a story of two men. And one owes a man a whole bunch of money. And he's thrown into prison because of that debt. And the owner of that debt says, you know what, I'm going to forgive you. And so he comes and he forgives that man, and he takes all of that debt and he throws it away. And that man whose debt was forgiven goes out, and he takes a man who owes him just a little bit of money, and he beats him and he throws him to prison. And the story is, how can this possibly take place? How can this man who's been forgiven so much go and then put another man in prison? And the answer is because he was unjust. He did not understand the great responsibility now given to him by being forgiven. You see, Christ died for us while we were still sinners, an understanding that now our obligation is justice. You see, in 2 Corinthians 5:18-20, it says this: all this is from God, Paul speaking, who through Christ reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That is, in Christ, God was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God. You see, we are obligated to be men and women of justice. Our whole goal now is to be ambassadors for Christ, to be reconcilers. As one poor person who was hungry and needing help, we found that help. We now need to tell other people about that. And we cannot put all these different tribalisms. We can't put different stratus to make ourselves better. We must understand that we are only who we are, where we're at, because of Christ. It's a wonderful story. John Newton, do you know the story? It's amazing. He was a slave trader. He was a midshipman forced into the British Navy. He wanted to get out. A slave ship came by and said, you can get out if you come be a part of our ship. He did that. He became cruel and unjust, and he made many trips. He eventually becomes the captain of his own ship. In that process, he has Thomas à Kempis' Imitation of Christ, and also a Bible, and he's reading it, and he's reading it, and he's reading it. He gets saved. He goes back to Liverpool, England, where he ends up marrying his sweetheart, and he still makes more voyages as a slave trader. You see, the gospel changed his life, but it didn't yet affect every aspect of him. He didn't know. And once it clicked that I can't do this, how can I treat unjustly a people group when Christ forgave me of my sins, cleansed me from all unrighteousness? And so that process, he goes and then becomes a pastor at a church there. He writes poetry and he writes songs. One song I'm sure you're familiar with is Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. You see, once John Newton understood, the Bible not only hit his heart, it transformed his whole life. He understood that I cannot be a person of injustice. I must now be a reconciler. I must be an ambassador. He went after that journey, and he partnered up with Wilberforce, who worked in the Parliament, and they were able, through the grace of God and the hard work, to abolish the international slave trade. You see, we are called to be men and women of justice. We are called to walk in righteousness. We are called to go after those who are hurting, those who are poor, those who do not have Christ. And we are called to then give them what was given to us, namely Christ. I pray and ask that as we continue to look at justice, that you would understand that because you are created in the image of God, because you are a sinner who is only having hope because of what Christ has done, you are now obligated to be a man and woman of justice. We're not talking about social justice here. We're talking about biblical justice. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless.